I told you that one single thought could bring peace to your heart, even after the age of 70. As we get older, life doesn't always slow down inside. In fact, it can often feel like it speeds up. While the world around us continues to move on, our minds can grow louder, heavier, and more restless. We find ourselves constantly thinking about our health, our loved ones, and what kind of legacy we'll leave behind. Those thoughts can swirl endlessly, and sometimes it feels like peace is slipping away. In this video, we're going to explore 5 specific thoughts that have helped thousands of seniors find their inner calm. These aren't just random ideas. They're based on wisdom, psychology, and most importantly, lived experiences. While each of these thoughts is powerful in its own right, there's one thought, one simple phrase, that has the potential to completely end your anxiety when you truly understand it. If you're over 70 and often feel nervous for no clear reason, or you find yourself awake at night with your heart racing, constantly anticipating something bad, then this could be the most important video you watch all week. It's never too late to change how you relate to your thoughts. It's never too late to find peace again. And the best part is, you don't need to become someone else to get there. You just need to learn how to think differently, starting with these 5 life-changing thoughts. Thought 1, this is just a thought, not a fact. One of the most powerful shifts you can make after 70 is learning to say, this is just a thought, not a fact. It might sound simple, but it's incredibly effective. The truth is, most of our anxiety doesn't come from reality. It comes from believing everything our mind tells us without questioning it. After decades of experiences, our minds collect memories, regrets, and fears, and sometimes they throw them at us like a slideshow we didn't ask to see. What if I fall? What if I become a burden? What if my best days are behind me? These thoughts come at us with no warning, dressed like facts, and when we believe them, they tighten our chest, cloud our judgment, and drain our peace. But when we pause, take a deep breath, and remind ourselves, wait, that's just a thought, something incredible happens. We create space between ourselves and the fear. We stop treating every worry like it's an absolute certainty. We start recognizing patterns and see how our minds have been repeating the same fearful story over and over again, like an old radio stuck on the same station. Once we notice this, we can choose not to tune in. Let me share a real example. There was a woman named Margaret, 81 years old, who used to wake up every morning with a racing heart. She believed something terrible was always right around the corner. Her health was fine, her family was fine, but her mind was constantly imagining disasters that never came. One day during a support group, someone shared this thought, just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. That line hit Margaret like a thunderbolt. She realized she had been living under a sky filled with imaginary clouds. The storm wasn't in her life, it was in her mind. The next morning, when that familiar feeling came back, she whispered to herself, this is just a thought, not a fact. It didn't instantly erase her fear, but it gave her a tool. And over time, that tool gave her power. The shift isn't about ignoring reality. It's about confronting reality without letting your imagination take over. When you treat every thought as a warning, you start living in a world that doesn't exist, one filled with imagined dangers, rejection, and doom. But when you remember that not every thought deserves your belief, you regain your inner power. You remind yourself that you're not the voice in your head, you're the one who hears it. And that simple realization changes everything. The mind will always keep thinking. That's its job. But your job is to decide which thoughts to entertain and which ones to let drift away, like clouds in the sky. As you grow older, this becomes even more important. Peace in later life doesn't come from having fewer thoughts, it comes from believing fewer lies. And when you can say, this is just a thought, you take the first step toward freedom. Thought 2, I can't control everything, but I can control what I focus on. One of the heaviest burdens that anxiety places on older adults is the illusion of control. The nagging feeling that if we just worry enough, plan hard enough, or stay alert, we can stop bad things from happening. But the truth is, life teaches us again and again, especially after 70, that no amount of worry can control the future. The weather changes, bodies age, people make decisions that we can't understand, and the world keeps moving, whether we like it or not. When you try to carry all of this on your shoulders, you end up feeling exhausted, bitter, and helpless. That's why this thought is so liberating. I can't control everything, but I can control what I focus on. Let that sink in for a moment. You might not be able to change the fact that your children live far away, reverse a diagnosis, stop inflation, or bring back someone you lost, but you can choose where you place your attention today. You can choose whether to focus on what's missing or what remains, whether to dwell on what you fear or what you still love, whether to wake up and notice the aches or the sunlight coming through the curtains. I once spoke with Henry, an 84-year-old man who had lost his wife 3 years earlier. For months, he couldn't stop fixating on the silence in the house, the empty side of the bed, and the sound of her voice fading from memory. He thought about it constantly, until one day, during a walk, he looked up at a red cardinal in a tree. For the first time in weeks, he smiled. That moment changed something in him. From that point on, he made a choice, not to erase the grief, but to give more attention to what was still alive around him. Flowers, neighbors, warm meals. Slowly, the anxiety began to loosen its grip. This isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about reclaiming your power by choosing where to shine your light. Anxiety thrives in the dark corners of your mind where your attention lingers. But when you shift your focus, even just slightly, you remind yourself that you're not helpless. You're not just a passive observer of your thoughts. You are the one holding the flashlight, and you get to decide what part of your life you want to illuminate. If you're still with me and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend subscribing and turning on the bell notification so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content. Now let's continue. Thought 3. Every moment is a chance to begin again. As we age, it's easy to feel like our story is almost finished, that the most important chapters are behind us, and now we're just coasting toward the end. But nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, one of the most empowering thoughts, especially after 70, is this: every moment is a chance to begin again. This thought doesn't erase what has come before. It doesn't deny the mistakes, regrets, or wounds you may have carried. But it offers something even more powerful, a clean slate in the present moment. This means no matter how anxious you felt in the past, whether it was yesterday, last week, or even an hour ago, you can choose to begin again. You see, anxiety thrives on the idea of permanence. It whispers, "You'll always feel this way." It tells you that it's too late to change, that the patterns of the past will forever define your future. But the truth is, the mind is far more flexible than we realize. You are not your anxiety. You are the awareness behind it. And the moment you understand that, you take the first step toward freedom. I once met a woman named Linda who was 76 years old. For most of her life, she carried anxiety like a second skin. She worried about everything: her health, her finances, what people thought of her, even the weather. She felt like her thoughts had a life of their own, constantly chasing her. But one day, during a simple breathing exercise at her local senior center, something shifted. She said, "For just a moment, I stopped chasing every thought. I let them pass by like clouds. And in that moment, I felt free." That moment didn't fix everything, but it gave her a glimpse of what was possible. So she kept practicing. Every morning before breakfast, she would sit quietly for 2 minutes and tell herself, "I get to begin again." Over time, that 2-minute ritual became the most peaceful part of her day. The beauty of this thought is that it takes away the pressure. You don't have to fix your entire life today. You don't need to erase every fear or achieve some perfect version of yourself. You just need to begin again, whether it's with a kind word, a new habit, or a single breath. Every moment gives you the opportunity to start fresh. And when you live from this place, anxiety loses its grip on you. Instead of being stuck in the past or filled with dread about the future, you return to the present, the only place where true peace can be found. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed or tense, don't try to fight it. Don't criticize yourself. Just pause, breathe, and remember, this is a new moment. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are alive, aware, and in control of what happens next. Thought 4. You are not your thoughts. One of the hardest lessons in life is also one of the simplest. Just because a thought appears in your mind doesn't mean it's true. For many people over 70, this single misunderstanding can lead to a lot of suffering. You might wake up with a thought like, "I'm not useful anymore," or "People have forgotten me." Before you know it, your entire mood shifts around that thought. But here's the truth that can change everything. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who observes them. And that small difference can radically transform how you live the rest of your life. The mind generates thoughts the same way your lungs produce breath, automatically, constantly, and often beyond your control. As you age, when routines shift, losses accumulate, and quiet moments become more frequent, your mind fills that silence with stories, many of them negative. But the key is understanding that you don't have to believe those stories. Just because a thought is loud doesn't make it true. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's helpful. And just because it feels real doesn't mean it's reality. Let me tell you about Henry, a man I met in a small town in Iowa. He was 81, widowed for 5 years, and had started believing that he was just taking up space. Those were his exact words. "My kids don't call us much. My knees hurt. My hands shake. I'm not who I used to be." That thought echoed in his mind every day, like a broken record. But after joining a meditation group at his church, he heard something that changed everything. Your thoughts are like passing cars. You don't have to chase them. That simple image stayed with him. The next time his mind said, "You're useless," he paused. He didn't argue. He didn't panic. He simply said, "There's that old car again," and let it drive on by. Over time, the thoughts didn't stop, but they lost their power. Henry stopped mistaking them for the truth. There's a deep freedom that comes when you realize you don't have to believe every thought that comes to you, especially those born from fear, shame, or loneliness. These thoughts might visit, but they don't have to stay. You don't have to entertain them or wrestle with them. You can simply notice them, breathe, and return your attention to something real, the feel of your feet on the floor, the warmth of your tea, the kindness in a neighbor's eyes. The thought, "I am not my thoughts," isn't about pretending everything is fine. It's about creating space. It's about stepping back just far enough to see your thinking clearly without being swept away by it. It's about remembering that your worth isn't determined by what pops into your mind on a difficult morning, but by the simple fact that you are alive, aware, and still growing, even now. So the next time your mind says, "You're not enough," or "It's too late to change," just pause, breathe, and remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them, and that makes all the difference. When a thought feels cruel or discouraging, don't fight it and don't follow it. Just pause and then choose not to believe it. Your thoughts are not the final authority. You are. If you're still watching this and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue creating content that both informs and inspires you. Now let's move forward. Thought 5. Nothing lasts forever. It's strange how often we forget the most obvious truth in life: nothing stays the same. Yet, when anxiety creeps in, especially as we get older, it often comes from the unspoken hope that things should stay just as they were, or from the fear that the worst feelings will last forever. But here's the liberating truth that only a few truly understand: nothing lasts forever. Not joy, not sorrow, not fear, not pain. Everything rises, stays for a while, and then fades. That includes the heaviness you might be feeling right now, the doubts, the dread, the worry that keeps cycling through your mind. The moment you accept this truth, you give yourself the grace to breathe through even your hardest days. I once spoke with Clara, a 77-year-old woman who had recently been diagnosed with a chronic illness. She told me that her mornings had become filled with fear. What if I lose my independence? What if I become a burden? These thoughts greeted her before she even had the chance to get out of bed. And because she believed that how she felt in the moment was how she would always feel, the fear began to take root. But with some gentle guidance, Clara started repeating a quiet mantra to herself whenever her heart raced: "This too shall pass." At first, it felt mechanical, even empty. But over time, something shifted. She stopped resisting the fear and instead allowed it to come and go. And it did. The fear never disappeared entirely, but it stopped controlling her life because she stopped believing it would last forever. There is a deep peace that comes from recognizing the impermanence of all things. Think about the seasons. Winter gives way to spring, not by force, but by time. Your emotions are just like that. They are seasonal. They don't need to be fixed or figured out in the moment. They simply need to be witnessed and allowed to pass. When we clutch onto our sadness or panic, we give those feelings more power than they deserve. But when we remember that everything in life is in motion, our bodies, our relationships, even our thoughts, we loosen our grip and gain perspective. This doesn't mean we become passive or careless. It means we become wiser. A storm in the mind is like a storm in the sky. You don't control it, but you can shelter from it and wait. You can trust that it won't last. That truth alone can ease the pressure that anxiety places on your chest. Because if it's not forever, then you can survive it. You can even grow through it. And perhaps most importantly, when we understand that nothing lasts forever, we realize that every experience, no matter how difficult, is just a passing moment. Nothing lasts forever. When we truly embrace this truth, we begin to appreciate what's here, right now. The taste of a warm bowl of soup, the sound of a friend's voice, the sunlight filtering through the window in the afternoon. These are not small moments. These are life. And they are always changing, so we can greet them with fresh eyes, knowing they won't come back in quite the same way. So, if today feels heavy, if you feel overwhelmed or anxious, remind yourself gently, this too shall pass. And remember, just like the sun sets each night only to rise again, your heart will find its warmth again. Let this thought sink deep within you. Nothing lasts forever, and that is not something to fear. It's something to find comfort in. Final thoughts. If there's one lesson I've learned in all my years, it's this. Peace isn't something you find on a mountaintop or in some perfect life. It's something you build, thought by thought, day by day. And after 70, when life slows down just enough to finally hear yourself think, these thoughts become incredibly powerful. Anxiety may still knock at your door, but it doesn't have to move in. Not when you have these simple, wise reminders to meet it with. You see, most people spend their whole lives trying to change their circumstances, hoping that if they just get everything in order, they'll finally feel at peace. But the older I get, the more I realize that circumstances are slippery. They rise, they fall, they never stay the same. What truly matters is how we meet those circumstances. And that starts with how we talk to ourselves in quiet moments, whether it's reminding yourself that you've survived every tough day so far, or gently releasing the need to control what others think. These small shifts in perspective can open the door to a more peaceful heart. No, it's not always easy. Some days, the old fears come back louder than ever. But if you can remember even one of these thoughts and hold it like a lantern in the dark, you'll find your way through. Because anxiety feeds on helplessness, but wisdom that only comes from living, gives you back your power. So the next time you feel anxious, I want you to try something. Instead of running from it, sit with it. Ask it what it's trying to protect. Then gently remind it that you are no longer the same person you once were. You're wiser now. And one thought at a time, speak truth into that fear. These aren't just words, they are tools. You've earned the right to feel calm. You've walked through enough storms. Let peace be your reward. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments motivates and encourages us greatly. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content that informs and inspires. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.